They go with Austria. Does that mean there's a chance that Poland, Germany and Austria could be fighting? And that could be good, the earlier it is. As an offshoot of the Hawking Plan, relief efforts will see a new industrial growth in several vital areas, primarily in the military sector. Several of these new companies are planned for Denver, Colorado. At least one other area can be promoted, and the cabinet believes that putting them in the depressed areas, which are currently strongholds of the FP or the SPA, may see their influence in those areas drastically weakened. So we can put it in Iowa. Which makes the AFP gain political power. We can put them in Tennessee, which is the opposite. This is actually a fairly big one, so I'm going to leave this random. I'm just going to keep hovering between the two and I'm going to click. Don't know what that one was. Alright, shipyard funding scheme. 2 major shipbuilding companies are vying for federal relief funding, and the one that we select could mean a larger number of new jobs in the region. Trouble is, which one do we focus on? Do it. Do I have a favourite US state? That's a good question. I'll need to think about that one. Margaret Mitchell published today her novel Gone with the Wind, which immediately became a bestseller and may be nominated for the next Pulitzer Prize. Even Hollywood is taking notice and is planning a film adaptation to be released next year, set in the Old South during the American Civil War. Many see it as an analogy for the strained political situation in the United States. Many America First Southerners claim the novel supports their cause. Ah, and we have military factories now. Right, because we just gained some new ones. Let's go with another support factory. I mean, in the past I would have said California, simply that's because where my family is from. But having actually lived in California, I wasn't that impressed. I do like Massachusetts. Boston's a really nice city. Germany staged a declared war on the Indo-Chinese Union. I like Connecticut. Massachusetts and Connecticut would probably be my top choices. For some time, the violence has been mostly between the supporters of the radical parties. However, recently, the violence is now reaching the candidates and politicians themselves. Failed attempts on the lives of both Huey Long and Jack Reed have occurred in the past few months. Both gunmen shooting from a crowd both failed and both resulted in higher security. Several more local politicians have been stabbed during a campaign rally. Moreover, voters from both extremes are turning a blind eye to the violence done to their enemies. Indochina declares independence after the Welsh Creek. Germany seized French Indochina, but stability wasn't restored until Germany crashed out the South China revolutionaries in 1926. Oregon's nice, that's true. Portland was really, really hyped up to me, and I wasn't that impressed. It's nice, but I think I prefer Boston. I also actually really liked New York City. Can't say very much about upstate New York, haven't been there. Quite like Michigan. I'll be staying in Chicago for a day or two. Illinois. I did like Charleston, South Carolina. That's a really nice city. Expensive, though. The Democratic Party and the Republican Party were just like the old patent medicine drummer that used to come around our country. He had 2 bottles of medicine. He'd play the banjo and he'd sell 2 bottles of medicine. One of those bottles of medicine was called High Popalorum, and one of those bottles of medicine was called Low Popalorum. No, Poharium. Finally, someone around there said, "Is there any difference in those bottles of medicines?" "Oh," he said, "considerable. They're both good, but they're different," he said. "That High Popularum is made of the bark of the tree that we take from the top down, and the Low Popirulum is made from the bark that we take from the root up. The only difference that I found between the Democratic leadership and the Republican leadership is that one of them is skinning you from the ankle up and the other from the ear down," when I got to Congress. Homely sayings do not win elections. America first gains power. NYC was too big for me. I'm a countryside person. Well, seeing as I live on the outskirts of London, I like big cities. I much prefer big cities. Charleston's the best burger I've ever had. Charleston's the best bourbon I've ever had. The heat wave is over. People from Vancouver and Los Angeles to New York and Washington, D.C. let out a great sigh of relief as the great heat wave of 1936 has come to an end, and now a cold front has spread over North America. It will come to be known as the United States' deadliest natural disaster of the 20th century, with an estimated death toll reaching 5,000. But even as the heat wave ends, a new chapter in American history is about to begin. Instability. Oh, wow. I didn't realise I was on timer for this. The Great Depression has left the United States reeling, and President Hoover's government has been struggling to deal with the fallout. The last hope is to pass a bill that will finally get some relief in the hands of those who need it, if Congress can work quickly enough. And we're about to finish the shipyard funding scheme. Yeah, which will be completed in time. So demanding repayment of the war debts actually fixes that event way quicker than going the way that I did. That's fair, I mostly lived in the Oxfordshire countryside, but lived in Brussels and a few other larger cities. Definitely prefer the wide open areas. I think I prefer small cities. I like urban living. I think that New York is a bit too big. London certainly is too big for me. Like Lancaster, I just really liked Lancaster. And cities of a similar size. As much as I hate to say it, York's quite nice. Nottingham was alright. Manchester. I really like Manchester. Manchester's probably my favourite British city. Disunity within the coalition. In Iowa, a number of progressives have gotten into a conflict with the Republicans. The Republicans are accusing the progressives of alienating people needed to win the election, while the progressives are accusing the Republicans of not pushing for the policies needed to end the Depression. This fighting is driving a wedge in the coalition. We're going to force a compromise. Currently in the Shenzhen, China, 20 million people, that's too big. Yeah, that would definitely be far too big for me. Playing as a Cindy country and praising York, who are you and what have you done with the real Mordred? I know. I know. There was one thing which I'll say about York, and that was a complete lack of red roses. I needed far more red roses than I saw. Shipyard funding scheme done. The Hawken plan has led to two major shipbuilding companies vying for a federal contract, one in New York City and the other in Corpus Christi. Both would mean a large number of jobs for the area and would be a boon for control over the region. The problem is that word of the contract has gotten out, and whichever city we don't choose will likely be enraged, giving strength to the FPA, the SPA in the region. So again, this is another one where I'm just going to be doing this. Looking away from the screen, I'm just going to click. Field hospital and radio are done. Ah, as are the fighters. Excellent. So, we're going to get the fighters. And we're going to start actually producing a bunch. So I'm going to reduce this. And reduce the naval bombers. We'll start churning out the fighters. I didn't realise I was building so many naval bombers. That was a mistake. Cool. Right, new technologies. It is still September 36. Concentrated industry. Resources. Right, we need doctrines. USA. That's a lot of light tank doctrines. That's a lot of medium tank doctrines. That's a lot of heavy tank doctrines. Not particularly impressive. I think we're going to go with Ford, so that's going to be heavy tanks. The other one would be army types. There is an artillery attack. Armoured spearhead. There's no firepower from this. That's some very cheap motorized mechanized. From Buick. Or Studebaker. Remington. It's not terrible. Not great though. Browning's alright. Oh, that one's quite good. Water Ordnance. And the artillery manufacturers. There weren't any artillery manufacturers that really stuck out. So I'm kind of leaning towards mobile warfare or possibly Grand Battle Plan. One of these two. We're on to you, Mordred. Your syndicalism version will be stopped or supported. I don't know. This chat leans every way possible. I'll answer that one in a minute, Charles, because that is a very good question. I think I'm going to... This is actually a really hard choice. Mobile warfare. Yeah, we'll do that. Wait, why are you... Oh, I have to have completed them all. Oh, I can't. It's impossible. Because that's 42 days. And this finishes in 37. Yeah, I think that the Garner-Wagner bill was available from the start and I didn't see it. Which is why I went for the War Department and US Navy expansions. I'm kicking myself about that one, but never mind. The United Kingdom incurred enormous war debt since driving us towards the Welsh Creek. That debt has been inherited by Canada. While it's unlikely Canada could repay it right now, demanding repayment will appease the isolationists in Congress, whom we believe will join the political fringe if not appeased. Check the army branch. That's also a good point. Thank you. Army reform. That's just generic doctrine. That's also just generic doctrine. That's also generic doctrine. However, the actual bonuses, Chaffee, more organization, less recovery rate, more attack on core, armor, made cheaper but significantly worse. That increases their armor attack defense and armor production cost even further. Motorized production cost. That makes artillery cheaper. Artillery more damaging. Minimum training, land doctrine, experience. That's mass assault. Or Grand Battle Plan. That's probably Grand Battle Plan, actually. Oh yeah, Engineer Company +2 entrenchment. That's very Grand Battle Plan. I mean, this could also still work with mobile warfare. Planning speed goes up by 15%, as does max planning. That would go really well with mobile warfare. How fast would you plan? That's another 5%. Your planning speed would like be 70% faster. Right. Charles's question. What do I want in the next Hearts of Iron 4 update? Politics and covert operations. I'd like to see there being a lot more internal affairs to deal with in your country to affect stability, party popularity, that type of thing. And also resource production and output. And I'd like to see covert operations. So that would tie into politics. So for example, the UK could support the French freedom fighters. And then the Germans have to contend with the French freedom fighters who could either pop up as guerrillas every now and then or have other means of sabotage. I just want to see more involved aspects for that, and then that could also build onto the government in exile, where if you have a lot of freedom fighters, then government in exiles could support the freedom fighters, or vice versa. So, covert ops, government in exile, and politics. Do remember you'll be the comment. Yeah, I know, Collinus. Again, I'm not playing with benefit of hindsight. I'm trying to build up the USA as if I was playing as the USA. I don't want to make this too easy for myself. That's boring. Alright, 1936. I would like you to develop anti-tank. And probably AA as well. I wish there was a way of buying myself a little bit more time with this. I mean, it's going to be good for us, granted, but only because I screwed up a bit. In order to gain more sympathy from the North and the West, it's been proposed to the Senate and the House that the Indian Citizenship Bill be passed, effectively elevating all indigenous peoples of the United States from second-class citizens to full citizenship. Northeastern and Western politicians in both major parties support this, while some Southern Democrats and Northern Republicans have deemed it frivolous. Pass it, hopefully you'll get some sympathy, or veto the bill, it's no time for populism. Nope, we're going to pass the bill. We're going to give the Indian citizenship. I'm really tempted to cheat this one. I mean, yes, I take your point, Isdar. It'd be interesting to see if that passes. But this was an unintended screw-up. Doesn't say they gain a lot of political power. It's just annoying because I miss it by 10 days. 10 days! Oh, I see. It ends when the election starts. So I did misjudge. I thought I'd complete this one for sure. It was the next one I wasn't sure about. Okay, we can build some more stuff. Right, where do we want to upgrade our infrastructure next? Maryland has a fair amount of stuff. Oh, Ohio does. Tennessee is still low level, though. Upgrading Texas. Still also another good option. Part of the problem is all of the industry is already on the East Coast. And all the infrastructure. I'm going to upgrade Northern Texas. Save here just in case this does screw things up. Bum bum bum. We were 4 days late. 4 days. Not even 10. 4. And there we go. I completed it before the election. Guys! Damn it! That should be the deadline. Alright, reconciliation with Canada or the Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act. I'm going to go with the Tariff Act. Canada refused to repay their war debts, unsurprisingly, and thus in return our only option is to pass punitive tariffs on the Entente goods imported into the US. This will put some money into the coffers, although repairing relations with Canada will take a long time. Canada refuses. The Canadian government has responded to the demand with a flat refusal. The debt, they say, was never meant to be repaid until the home islands were retaken, as most were incurred by the United Kingdom, a government which is now in exile. Even so, the refusal has done its job and fired up the isolationist elements in the American government. President Hoover's government is the support it needs at the cost of relations with the Canadians. And there it is, the 1936 presidential elections. The results are finally in from what is probably the most ideologically contested presidential election in the United States has ever witnessed. None of the three major parties have secured enough votes in the Electoral College to win the presidency, and as a result, the House of Representatives once again has to vote on the winner of the election. This is probably not the end of our problems, but for the time being, victory goes to Floyd Olson of the National Unity, Jack Reed, the Socialist, or Huey Long, America First. We're going to go with Jack Reed. Or are we? Because this is going to make syndicalism stronger. Yeah, we are. We did say that we're going to be playing as Jack Reed, so we're going to be playing as Jack Reed. Now we can do the Jack Reed stuff. Right, I couldn't do that because we didn't get there in time. Oh, I see. We need to wait until the inauguration. We'll give you up to 7 days. The AFP contest the election results. The America First leadership has contested the results of the election. They claim that Reed's allies have rigged the election and demanded a recount. Huey Long even gave a mocking speech accepting the presidency to his followers. Some murmurs from inside the AFP have reported that the Democrats that left for the AFP have expressed regret for losing with this historic election. What a card. The elections within the Republic of Italy resulted in the election of Prime Minister Italo Balbo, head of the Associazione Nazionalista Italia. The new Prime Minister has quickly discarded the title of Prime Minister for the title of Il Duce, which he says is much more fitting for the Italia. In a speech in Milan, he has stated that nothing shall ever stand in the ways of Italy's greatness, and the present Black Monday crisis is due to vile Austrian influence, which will eventually be destroyed by the new legions of Italy. So we've got a pro-Austria Poland and an anti-Austria Italy. This is just asking for trouble. It's great. Come on. When do I get inaugurated? Norway has joined the Third Internationale. Following the overthrow of the monarchy, the new Norwegian syndicalist government has formally aligned itself with the Third Internationale. I'm going to start working on a focus just so I'm not wasting time. Oh, the only focus I can do is a fleet one, which I kind of want to leave up to the AI. Check the Soviet-Russian war. Hard to tell. Let's see who's losing the most. 118,000 to 134,000 losses. Oh, the Soviets are allied with Japan! GG Russia. Transamur might actually do this. Interesting. Hoover criticizes the president. Herbert Hoover has been vocal after the election and openly criticized Reid and the SPA as being unfit to lead the country. Hoover has encouraged both the Republicans and the Democrats to form an alliance to curb Reid and the SPA. Come on, when's the inauguration? Thought it happened by now. Yeah, it's because of Japan. Japan's taking some territories and not giving them to Transumur for whatever reason. I don't know if they'll fill in after they've passed through the state. They might. Though that looks unlikely. Don't know why. It's weird. January 20th, an American tradition. Is it? Okay. Well, I guess this is getting me some political power back again. And the fact that I failed the depression doesn't seem to be there anymore. I was wondering if that was going to like lock something else later on. The Venetian Revolt. With the recent electoral victory in the right wing, the vehemently anti-Austrian ANI party in the Italian Republic, there's been open sedition in the Veneto region by moderates opposed to the new government. Many regional rebels are openly calling for the restoration of the Serene Republic of Venice, the famous state that had been conquered in the Revolutionary Wars and ruled alternatively by France, Austria and Italy ever since, though it is as yet unclear whether this part of an Austrian scheme to further their influence in the peninsula or represents a legitimate effort by the rebels to free themselves from the ANI rule. Already fighting is breaking out across northern Italy, posing a substantial risk to the Milan government, surrounded as it is by enemies on all sides. Can the Queen of the Adriatic survive? I'm saving this, that's interesting. Actually, let's do this. Because Venice does amazingly have its own focus tree.